I'm going to show you how to create a micro rocket for one of these micro rock motors using two 7mm straws, an 1/8 inch diameter ID diameter straw, a nose cone made from a 1/4 inch dowel that has been put into a pencil sharpener, and a 1/2 inch roll of tape for construction. I have a pair of scissors and also some curling ribbon, which we're going to use as a shock cord. This 1 1/4 inch tape is going to be used as a jig. The first thing we're going to do is to cut a shock cord by taking the curling ribbon and getting basically 2 lengths of whatever the straw length is. Then we're going to cut it, and this is going to act as our shock cord, which is going to keep our nose cone with our rocket body tube. We're going to take a 1/2 inch masking tape. We're going to pull out about 5 inches on it. Position our curling ribbon on the tape with it facing down at about 1/4 inch off the end. We'll press. Then as we take the curling ribbon, wrap it forward, and then we will wrap the rest of this tape around it. Okay, this is securing the shock cord to the straw, and it's also creating a little ledge which is going to keep our fin assembly in place. So we now have our shock cord attached to our straw. This is going to be the engine end. At the other end, we're going to take, again, this time about 3 inches worth. We will stick the tape out, let about 1/2 inch of the ribbon stick out. Go to the nose cone right below the taper. We're going to do exactly the same thing. Wrap it around. Then when we bring the tape around, we fold the curling ribbon down and then continue wrapping. Okay. We've now secured our shock cord to our nose cone and to our body tube. So let me take the twists out. We are going to put our shock cord inside the body tube. We can do that with this 1/8 inch tube, which we're going to use a little bit later. So I'm just going to push this down in there. Okay, once it's in, I slip my nose cone in. Okay, our nose cone has now been secured, so we have a nose cone with a shock cord in the middle. We're going to make our fins. We need to cut 6 sections of fins, or 6 pieces of tube. So I'm using this 1 1/4 inch masking tape as a jig to hold my scissors, and I cut. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These represent our fins, and now I'm going to take that 1/8 inch and I'm going to do exactly the same thing on that. I cut one of those, that becomes our launch lug. So let me put this away, we don't need that anymore. To put our fins on, I'm going to take about 1.5 inches. I don't need it to be super long. It has to be more than 1 circumference of the body tube. But I'm going to put the tape down sticky side out. This is going to be sort of a jig that will hold the fins while we arrange them. So I'm basically holding the sticky side out. I roll it around while keeping it tight so that it's not loose. Now I have a ring of sticky tape on here. I'm going to take one of my fins and line it up with the body tube, making sure it's straight. Once I've put that one fin on, I will then just lay the other ones right next to it. And as we go around, we will complete a full circle of tubes. These are going to be our fins, and these are called tube fins. Okay, so I put all these in place. Okay, and again, you just press it down so that it stays. One popped off. Okay, you now have a series of tubes. Okay, I'm going to take the launch lug, that's the 1/8, and I'm going to lay it between two of the tube fins. Let me see here. Let's do that one. Making sure that the seam is running parallel with the body tube. Now I'll take a piece of this tape, my 1/2 inch, about 5 inches, because I'm going to wrap it around these tubes. That's what's going to secure it. So I click here, go across the launch lug, paste it down, then simply rotate this tube assembly, overlapping. Okay, we now have, those gum came out, let me put that back in. We now have our tube fins in place. I'm going to slide that down against that tape that's holding the shock cord, and I will put one more piece of tape on the top. Its purpose is to keep the tube fins in place. So I take about a 3-inch section, lay it over here, and it will go over the shock cord, and I simply rotate the body tube. And now my fins are secured. Okay, so the fins can't come off. We have just completed a rocket. Now to show you how to install the engine. To protect our shock cord, which is just this curling ribbon, here is a piece of blown insulation. It's basically used in attics. We're going to take about a 1/4 inch ball of that and stick it in the back end of the rocket tube, and using our 1/8 inch tube, just press that in. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to put a tiny bit more in. Okay, it's going to protect the shock cord from the ejection charge of the engine. Okay, so we put that in here. Then we're going to take our mini engine. I'll take about a 2-inch strip of tape, and on the end that has the little nozzle, that's the tiny little hole in it, I'm going to lay the tape along here and wrap it around. Okay, and it should wrap over itself at least twice. This makes a flange that prevents the engine from sliding too far into the tube. I put it in the back and it stops up against that tape. Now to keep this engine in the rocket, I'm going to take another piece, again about 2 inches. This time we have to put this tape partly on the rocket and partly on the engine. That's what secures it to keep it in there. So there you can see there's the rocket, there's the engine. Okay, I go, wrap this around, and now our engine has been secured. We have created a tiny micro rocket out of 7mm straws. That concludes this video.